There we go. Okay. So welcome everybody. For those of you that were able to make it again today for another one of these brief Teams talks. Today I was going to talk about a resource that we I don't know that I've really publicized this a whole lot, but we have access to the Merck Manual online resource. We've actually embedded a search widget for this resource into our research guide that we built for the students and faculty. And it can be used as a point of care clinical reference tool. I mean, there's ways I've looked at this. I mean, it may not be the same par as an UpToDate or Dynamed, but for a free resource, it's pretty incredible in the ways this might be able to be used. It's also a self-study tool, so this could be usable by students as well. There's actually two versions, which is kind of neat. There's a professional and a consumer version. The widget that we've embedded in our research guide gives you access to both of those. Mostly I'm going to talk about the professional version because that's what I think our faculty and students would be interested in, but it's kind of interesting. I don't know if a practicing physician were to use this as a point of care clinical reference tool. It'd be kind of neat to be able to pull up the same information in a consumer version and share that information with the patient. So it seems like a possibility, but there's two versions. This resource indexes medical topics. So there's resources, there's drug info. Again, we have access to other resources like Lexicon for drug information, for trade names, counterindications, drug interactions, that kind of information. But there's a pretty cool drug information resource available through this Merck manual. There's news and procedures, just like there's updates and UpToDate. There's procedures and quizzes available for students, which I thought might be useful for self-study. There's some cases for study. Each of the topics that you look through is going to have related medical topics, videos, images, associated quizzes, so that whoever's using this can find content that would probably be useful for whatever situation they find themselves in. There's a library of videos, which I think might be kind of cool for some patient-centered medicine or some kind of application like that. There's procedures, a huge library of procedure videos that students or faculty could use if they wanted to use those lectures. And there's a large library, like I said, of quizzes that might be useful to students for self-study. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up, we don't have a link to this on the library page because there's pretty strict guidelines for what our LUCOM library page can look like. But as I've mentioned in previous sessions, this link under databases to research guides links to the LibGuide or the research guide that we built for our students and faculty. And I've mentioned in previous Teams talks about what all is available here. And I might have mentioned that the Merck Manuals widget is embedded down here, but this is where you'll find it. And it's just a little search box that you can, use. If you're familiar with this interface. Of course, I want to point out that there's professional and consumer radio buttons. So you can kind of see, I was looking at this before. So if I were to look up hypertension using the professional radio button selected, you'll see that it pulls up, there's images, there's medical topics for hypertensive emergencies, hypertensive retinopathy, anything related to that topic. And across the top of my search results here, you'll see there's 424 related medical topics. Unfortunately, there's no videos here. It tells you we have 7 images. There's 9 quizzes available for students if they want to take those. There's news or updates related to hypertension, 979. No models for this or calculators. So it automatically pulls up this related content, just so you can see how that might be different if we were to select the consumer radio button and search hypertension. It's going to pull up stuff that you might want to share with the patient. Something I may have mentioned before, if you guys have ever used UpToDate or if I've ever presented anything on how to use UpToDate to you. UpToDate has patient information that you can actually pull up for patients. This is kind of how I think of this as like the consumer version is for your patient if you were practicing. But a couple of things I want to point out too. Also, if you don't necessarily know where you want to go, if you just kind of want to dig around in the Merck Manuals resource without using the search widget, this is a link right here that says Merck Manuals and merckmanuals.com. And if I click on that, it just takes me directly to the site where I can choose professional or consumer. I'm not going to talk about the veterinary, obviously, but this kind of gives you an idea of which one you want to go to. So, but what we want to look at is the professional version mostly. I mentioned there's an index of topics. There's medical topics you can browse here. It's got common topics that you might want to go through: nutritional disorders, endocrine and metabolic disorders. This links to resources for videos, figures and images and quizzes. You can also view everything that's available here. So if we don't know what we want to search for, we want to browse. There's resources available, 3D models, audio, case studies I mentioned, or if students wanted to study this. There's all kinds of quizzes and tables, clinical calculators. Some of this might overlap with some resources we have access to, like the Diagnosaurus that we have access to through McGraw-Hill. But again, for a free resource, I'm kind of blown away by all that's available in just this free resource. So you can see what's kind of here for drug info. Again, we have lexicon, but we've got generic names, brand names. Let's see if we can, I'm not sure what acebutol is, but you can pull up drug information and find dosing, calculations, off-label use, level of evidence definitions. I mean, this is something I would expect to see at a paid resource like Lexicon, but this is available for free. It's a drug resource. And I think, yes, they also have contraindications, medication safety and issues, so we can kind of know which drugs you shouldn't take if you're taking that particular medication. And you can browse that by brand or generic by the alphabetical letter that it starts with. The news would be comparable to an updates section and up to date. I try to put some stuff, if you go back to the research guide, we've got links to trending articles in PubMed, so this is kind of similar to that. I've also got a link to up-to-date National Institutes of Health COVID-19 research in the LibGuide, but this is just kind of like a most current news, medical news that's been indexed, news and commentary for professionals. So this is more this search, medical topics, resources, drug info, and news. This kind of seems like it would be mostly used by our clinical faculty or people that might be practicing if they want to use this resource. Procedures and quizzes and cases, this looks like something that I really think could be useful for our students in the PCM or in some kind of class that goes along with that, where they need to know how to do procedures. I mean, they've got a ton of here. Cardiovascular disorders, critical care medicine, dental, maybe not so much, but dermatology, ear, nose, and throat, eye disorders. I'm going to see, here's something that looks kind of complicated, how to insert a nasogastric tube. So you can see, I don't know if you guys can hear this. I tried to make it so you could hear it, but I mean, this is the kind of thing you might be able to link to in a lecture or to make students more comfortable with some of these procedures. And this is, you'll actually see speed propels here. So just an example of something that's available there. And there's a ton of these videos available. I'm not quite sure if they can be embedded directly into a PowerPoint if you use it for a lecture, but you could definitely link to it. And then there's these quizzes and cases that I wanted to point out. And again, this is something that I think can primarily be used by students, but it's got some popular ones that pop up. Adrenal viralism, I'm not sure what that is. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. Bursitis, I'm a little more familiar with. And then there's cases, recurrent headaches, 31-year-old woman. These might be something I think we could use for kind of a dial or something like that, maybe for some kind of group learning activity. But there's access to more quizzes and more case studies. And just so you can see here, this is pretty high quality content. Again, I'm saying for a free resource, it's pretty incredible that how robust the resource is. It'll actually pull up, there we go. So here, much like our videos were organized, we've got cardiovascular, clinical pharmacology, critical care medicine, let's see, drugs to aid intubation. I mean, it's pretty simple. There's only 3 questions for this, but let's answer this. Let's see, am I correct? Look at that, I got it right. Gives you the full explanation under the answer and links to more information you can do for that particular question. But you can see, look at the number of questions here. I mean, if students are looking for self-study quizzes they can take, this is an incredible resource that I would think they would want to know they could have use to. So again, I mentioned before, hopefully for students that aren't able to make it to this, I'm going to put a link up to this video on the LibGuide so that anybody that couldn't make it can go back and watch this and hopefully get the information. So that's just kind of a basic once over of what's available here. Again, we've embedded this tool directly, the search widget directly into our research guide. And of course, there's links. You want to make sure that you're looking at the professional version because they do have professional and consumer versions. But might be a good resource for our clinical faculty and also for students that are looking for more self-study resources. So thank you again for joining. A couple minutes early today, I'll finish, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here. And